This is part 3 of my project to build a replica Kar 98. In the previous video I inlet the rough finish stock in order to fit the recoil bolt, action, trigger guard, and butt plate. In this video, I'll be shaping the outside of the stock. Like I said, the stock was listed as semi or rough finished. That's very clearly the case when looking at the surface finish, which looks like it was fresh off of the machines used to shape the stock without any finishing work done. It's also oversized, which I can tell by feel with the way my hand fits around the wrist. However, that doesn't communicate through video. An indicator of how oversized the stock is can be seen by looking at the butt plate. The wood should either be flush with the edges or just over flush. I can also compare against my Gewehr 98 long rifle. Using these calipers, I'll find the widest part of the rough stock and transfer to that spot on the Gewehr 98. I'll offset the calipers to the inside to show how much oversized the rough stock is. I'll repeat further down the stock, and it's just as big. At the wrist, this is the evidence for how oversized it felt. It's maybe up to 3/8 of an inch or 10 millimeters too wide. And the same at the action. It's quite a lot of material to be removed. However, since it needs to be removed from both sides, it's too thin of a cut for the bandsaw, while also being a lot to remove by hand. But I have no choice. I'll have to shape the stock by hand. I'll check the wrist to see how much material needs to be removed from the top and the bottom. So while it's oversized in this dimension, it's not nearly as much as on the sides. And of course at the rear, I have the height of the butt plate to go off of. I'll keep the Gewehr 98 close by as I shape the stock. I'll compare the two often with the calipers, a straight edge, a contour gauge, and also just the feel of the curves of the stock, like I did earlier with the wrist. All of these will help to ensure that I'm duplicating this over here. For shaping, my primary tool will be the Spokeshave. I have quite a few set up for different cuts. My primary will be this one, which I can easily set to a heavy depth of cut for removing a lot of material. It has a flat sole, which can be used to bring down the large, relatively flat areas like the comb and the sides. For other areas I have this one, which has a curved sole, and can be used to get into tighter curves like around the wrist, but this one will be used sparingly. Before I dive into rough shaping, I need to know which direction to cut. I'll start back towards the butt plate. The shavings were short towards the end of the cut. Next I'll reverse directions and cut toward the action. That seems smoother. And looking at the surface finish, it is much smoother on the left versus the right. The rough finish there is tear out, something I want to avoid especially as I get down close to dimension. I'll shape the buttstock with long strokes in order to ensure that material is removed evenly across the whole surface. I'm stopping to take a look at the marks the Spokeshave left on the mostly flat surface of the buttstock here. These are a result of the blade skipping across the wood, which is from the stock flexing. I'll move it over in the vise to hopefully solve that issue. Now with the area I'm working closer to the vise, it's much more solid than before, though some chatter across the wider areas is inevitable. The wood needs to be brought down quite a bit on the sides here. For these areas, I can cut across the grain. Though this is still pretty slow going, I'll need something more aggressive. This is a scrub plane. The blade is sharpened on a curve for a more aggressive cut, and it removes material quickly. I'll just need to ensure that I'm removing material evenly and not overworking one area, making a dip. Then I can use the Spokeshave, but that's more of a demonstration for later, because this needs to come down quite a bit. When I think I'm close, I'll compare often against the Gewehr 98 stock. Then I can make any small adjustments. Then I'll check again. This is actually looking pretty good. Keep in mind I'll do a whole finishing pass later on, but for now, I'm bringing the wood down close to dimension. But this area looks good. I'll flip this stock upside down and work on the bottom. I'll compare against the Gewehr 98 stock, which is pretty much flat on the bottom. There's a significant dip here, but that's only due to this area behind the wrist being high. Back further, it's straight as it should be. But it's high at the left because I couldn't get in there with the Spokeshave. This area is too tight for even the curved sole. To bring this area down, I'll use a rasp. After checking for straightness, I'll round over the edges. Then I'll use the contour gauge to compare against the Gewehr 98 stock. Next, I'll check the profile of the wrist. You can see that the whole wrist needs to come down quite a bit. I'll start with the top here, then shape the contours from there. The bottom of the wrist is looking close. I'll flip the stock over in order to work on the top. Before shaping the wrist, I'll flip over the Gewehr 98 so I can compare with the contour gauge. This will show where material needs to be removed. For complex areas like the wrist here, I can compare to the Gewehr 98 with the calipers, and also with the contour gauge to ensure that I'm duplicating the shape. But most important is to feel. This fits my hand just like the Gewehr 98 stock does. I'll move on to another area. I'll begin shaping the fore end. As you shape, it's important to go slow and test fit or measure often. I got a little ahead of myself here, but there's nothing I can do except to press on and be more mindful. I'm checking with the contour gauge mostly for consistency, if the left matches the right. In reality, I'm not sure yet how I'm going to shape the fore end. The step down for the middle band will need to be further back in this area, and this section will need to be much thinner, back to wherever the middle band is placed. Since I'm straying from the Gewehr 98 pattern at the fore end, I'm going to wait and shape this area once I have the middle parts made, the middle band, and the nose cap. Then at that point, I'll know what shape the fore end needs to be. What I'll do now is wrap up the shaping of the buttstock. I'll tune the Spokeshave for a lighter cut, which I'll use to smooth out the surface and remove any ridges and tool marks left over from the rough shaping. The final step in the shaping process is sanding, rough sanding that is. I'm using 100 grit, which will again smooth out the surface and remove any ridges and tool marks. I'll start with it on the block for the flat areas. However, for the more complicated areas, I'll freehand sand. There's a few voids that could be filled. I'm mixing acroglass gel with black dye, and I'll apply it to those areas. It's been 24 hours, and the acroglass has hardened up. Now to blend it in. Here's the stock, the back half at least, fully shaped and smoothed out. Like I said earlier, I'll wait until I have the front and middle bands to shape the fore end. Until then, there's one more thing to do on the buttstock here. For that, I'll swap my Gewehr 98 for my Kar 88. Since the Kar 98 here is a carbine, it needs a sling attachment point, just like on the Kar 88. Comparing against reference photos, the cutout is almost identical, which makes sense. I'll duplicate it on the Kar 98 stock. I think the most critical element to this cutout is the slot that goes all the way through the stock. I'll mark each end in order to drill through. Since I'll be doing it freehand, with all the angles on the top, bottom, and sides of the buttstock, it'll be just as hard to get it set up in the drill press. Adding a block behind the stock will hopefully prevent any blowout when the drill bit exits. The trick to consistent holes freehand is to hurry up and drill the next hole immediately, relying on the muscle memory of the first hole. Now to see how I did. Note the slight angle the holes are on. They're not directly on top of one another. And that's not too bad. The lower hole is just to the left of the top one. I'll put the stock on the workbench in order to check for blowouts and to quickly sand the back of the holes. There's a very small chip here, but that will come out with later sanding. In between the holes, I'll be chiseling out the slot on the bench. I'll add some padding to not damage the other side of the stock. Then I can chisel this out. I'm about halfway through the stock. Now to flip it over and work on the other side, starting with the shallow cutout first. When that's done, I'll go back and finish the slot. Here's the completed sling cutout. Not bad for mostly hand tools. And here's the shaped stock. At least the rear half has been shaped. Like I said earlier, the fore end will be shaped later, after I have the front nose cap and middle band made. But the rear half shaped nicely. I had been concerned about the staining present on the rough stock, but none of that shows on the finished product here. And though this stock was partially finished when I started, quite a lot of material has been removed. This video wasn't meant as a tutorial on how to shape a stock, though I did cover some key steps. If you want something more in depth, go check out my stock making series, where I make a US Krag stock from scratch. But that's all for this video. I can't say what will be the next step in the process to make the Kar 98, perhaps the rear sight or the nose cap, but until then, thanks for watching.